Hello listeners. Welcome back to Storytime FM. In this video we will be exploring r/AskReddit. Dear Americans of Reddit, how do you find this first year of Biden's presidency compared to Trump's? Let's jump right in. During the first year of Trump's administration, the majority of news headlines were about Trump. During the first year of Biden's administration, the majority of news headlines were about Trump. Let's look at some more comments. Well, it's certainly been quieter. ITT. People not actually aware of what the president does. At least 90% of people couldn't even tell you 5 things that the president has done since taking office, let alone give a good opinion on a president's performance. For some reason everyone cares a lot about the election process, and then completely ignores what the elected president is beyond that point. Being terrified in slow motion instead of being terrified on fast forward. Let's take a look at some other comments. TBH, most Americans stopped paying attention the second Trump was out of office. You'll have a hard time finding a crowdsourced educated opinion, especially on Reddit. If I am being honest, I don't have enough education in political science to have an actual opinion in politics. I do however feel like that is also the case for 90% of the American populace. Edit. 2 words motherfucker. I am not perfect. Edit 2. This is kinda my point. I am just a regular old blue-collar worker getting blackout drunk on steel reserves tonight, and one comment about politics and my aversion to them ruffled so many feathers. They want us to hate each other. They want a divide. We'll never agree on the fundamental things that keep us down as a nation. And the one thing that keeps us down as a nation is to forget that we are a together. We are the people. They are the government. I saw a political bumper sticker today that said 2020. Any sane person, that's pretty much how I feel. The only defining thing about Biden administration is that he is not Trump. And that is a sad legacy to leave behind. Let's look at some more comments. It's too bad that there are thousands of people better qualified to be president. But it's always the out-of-touch career politicians that we get for choices. Politics are a pseudoscience. Edit. I'm not implying that Biden is unqualified or ineffective, but that there may be someone out there that is simply better. I'm aware that Trump was not a career politician. I just want to see a change from the old, rich guy template. Biden is the quiet disappointment I expected him to be, a placeholder president. Refreshing, but unsatisfying. Well, there is pretty much one thing that's continuing to make me mad. It's that Biden lowered the threshold from $20,000 to $600 to get a 1099-K form. Instead of taxing the rich, they want to go after the gig economy, like DoorDash, or Uber, or small-time eBay sellers to nickel and dime them to death. Most people using these platforms are doing so as a side gig to make enough money to support their families. So let's go after those people and not the billionaires, right Biden? Let's see what other comments there are. Someone asked about Biden. Entire thread is still about Trump. Tears of joy. The way I see it is that each president has the opportunity to come into your house and make some home improvements during their tenure. Generally, some large projects like replacing your roof or major remodel don't happen all too frequently because they're expensive and you have to prioritize other repairs first. In my mind, Trump took a shit bazooka and started blowing out all the doors, walls and windows with it. Biden came in and couldn't get to any of the plans he had for the house because he's still cleaning shit off the walls and making it a livable space again. Did the overall condition of the house improve? Not really. Is that his fault? Not at all. All his contractors are tools and don't actually help him. Meanwhile the occupants are busy fighting with each other and there's always that one guy in the background yelling world star. I don't expect Biden to have a stellar presidency. The circumstances preceding him just won't allow for it. His job is to rehabilitate the house he inherited, and it's going to be someone else's to actually make the needed improvements. Two things. Way calmer. Also, this country is still fucked. It goes way deeper than the White Horse edit. You guys are great. Edit 2. Some of you get triggered very easily. Esh. Let's look at some more comments. He managed to make it a whole year without committing obstruction of justice, so that's a positive. Does no one realize there are macroeconomic trends that are totally out of control of the president? Trump had nothing to do with the stock market increasing, just like Biden has nothing to do with the stock market increasing during his term. The increase in the cost of living is happening all over the world. I'm not American BTW. So why does anyone think it is because of any policy Biden has enacted? Edit. For those saying that quantitative easing has contributed to the problem, I wholeheartedly agree. But when every single developed nation has been printing money for the past 30 years, it is a systemic issue and one that cannot necessarily be blamed on a single leader's policies. He returned Bears Ears to national park status, so that's a plus. Besides that, not much to say. It would have been easy for almost anyone other than Biden to come in and feel like a cool breeze compared to Trump. But Biden is not a cool breeze. Maybe it's not entirely him, and maybe it's partly the political environment. Maybe the pandemic. When Obama came into office, I felt a seismic shift. A sigh of relief. He was very smart, very competent. It was refreshing when he spoke. This has not felt like that, which is very surprising given what happened right before he was inaugurated. The bar was pretty low. The government has still been no better with the pandemic response. The best thing we did was get the vaccines out, but that had started under Trump. We beat Europe in that regard, and yet the uptake was slower and less. The public policy has been confusing. Huge bills and people aren't exactly sure what's in them, and they didn't pass anyway. And with Ukraine we've reversed the trend of avoiding hawkishness. I cannot claim to be an expert of what's going on. But as a layperson I cannot understand the doctrine of saying Afghanistan is not in our vital national interest but Ukraine is. Biden sold himself as healing the nation. That has not happened, at all. That's not his fault. But all the same, it's what he was selling. The U.S. federal government in general doesn't work that well, so I mean there's that. Nothing much feels that different. Personally I care the most about schools and COVID safety since my mom is older and an elementary school teacher, and billions were spent under Biden for ventilation and testing in the schools. And almost none of it went to that, and I don't know where it's all gone. A lot of that is how the government works in general. The public has no appetite for what I was hoping to see, which was stricter COVID control. Biden could have still fallen on his sword to have better policy because he probably will be a one-term president anyway. He allowed the CDC to put out policies that benefited corporations, and a lot of things happened where I think if Trump had still been president there would have been more outrage. Biden feels like a placeholder for something else. I don't know what that is or what's coming. He and Kamala Harris are not the future of the Democratic Party. The way social issues are addressed in the U.S. now is problematic and is going to hold Democrats back. They should, in my opinion, be almost singularly focused on economic justice for everyone and stop addressing things group by group. Eventually everyone is going to be a member of an aggrieved group in order to get equity. It's the wrong way to approach it. It's going to put some white voters back in a position to back someone like Trump again. They have never in their lifetime seen the promise of redistribution of wealth work for them or the promise of free trade work for them, so they turn to nationalism. They can be their own worst enemy at times in the way they vote, and Republicans can stymie progress in Congress. But the bills need to be clearer about what is promised to everyone as they pass. Biden is not capable of going on a barnburner tour across the country to campaign the public to push for something. There's just big blobs of bills he tweets about that have everything under the sun in them. They needed someone younger and frankly smarter and more able. There's also the problem of nuts on the left putting pressure on the Democratic Party to have aggrieved groups fight over table scraps rather than raise the standard for everyone. And when Democrats don't tell the truth about one thing, often by catering to smaller social causes or groups or to the increasingly tedious standards they have, conservatives will pounce and fill the void. Right now, I feel like Biden is just there as the world is changing around us and we don't know where it's going. So maybe he's a steady hand. The best we can do. I don't know. Here are some more comments I found. Biden is living up to his main campaign platform of not being Trump. So there's that. European here. Not as much fun to watch. Record-shattering inflation, high unemployment, plummeting labor participation, constant COVID fear propaganda. The brink of war in Taiwan and Ukraine. Record-shattering deficits. Loss of medical freedom and privacy. Chaos in the Middle East. A pattern of perniciously unconstitutional edicts from the Oval Office. But hey, at least the president isn't orange, so I guess we're way better off. That people can even ask questions like this with a straight face shows how little people actually know about current events, economics, and politics. The comments are enough to make me wonder if I actually died years ago and am unknowingly in hell right now. I'm not a raging MAGA Trump fan. In fact, I'm pretty moderate. And I certainly get a sense of relief knowing that my president isn't saying something stupid or horrible every 15 minutes. With that said, I hate Biden. And his entire administration. The economy is out of control. Inflation is skyrocketing. The stock market sucks. Trade deficits suck. We're on the brink of war with Russia and China and escalating shit in the Middle East again. And nothing has gotten better for Americans in the homeland. So social justice has actually been done. No marginalized communities have been helped. Big corporations and big pharma are still fucking us in the ass. Unemployment is out of control, etc., etc., etc. Biden just sucks. And it doesn't help that he's practically dead. The man is a vegetable, an octogenarian who is well past his prime, has one foot in the grave and is essentially a puppet on strings for corrupt politicians and special interests. Again, and I can't stress this enough, I do not like Trump. Not at all. And most conservatives suck. But Biden is literally no better whatsoever, in any way, shape or form. Edit. Love all these angry comments trying to prove me wrong as if I asked for a debate. LMAO. Fuck off, guys. I was simply answering the prompt with my honest opinion. IDC if you don't like it, and you won't convince me of otherwise. I didn't ask for your input, so keep your stupidity to yourself. Here are some more comments I found. Regardless of the Trump admin's actions, my life was more improved during the first year of the Trump admin than the current one. Much of that has to do with economics and no pandemic more than anything else. I don't feel like the Biden admin has actually done all that much more to improve life through the pandemic than the Trump admin did while figuring out what was happening. The vaccines were already in development during the prior administration. We've almost had a further 500,000 deaths since Biden became president. I understand that most of those are unvaccinated individuals, but deaths are deaths. Our world standing has not improved, our trade deficits are worse, cost of living has exploded, and we are being pushed towards war while corruption in our own government is ignored. I understand people got real emotional about Trump, but the Biden admin has made me numb to ineptitude. I don't even blink when the government, state and Fed, talks a big game, fails, and then explains why failure isn't their fault. MSNBC and CNN have almost gone out of business because complaining about Trump was their ratings. I'm ready for a cleaning out of the entire government. It was nice not paying $90 a week for gas. I am a struggling student, it's kind of a big deal for people like me. But no mean tweets though, right? Here are some more comments I found. I don't know the names of anyone in the cabinet because they're just doing their damn job instead of creating scandals. Biden is a total failure on every level and always has been. Inflation at record levels, everything is expensive, not just gas. Stock market is in the toilet, no one is getting their loans forgiven. But hey, no more mean tweets. Rolling on the floor laughing. I sure am paying a lot more for stuff. Let's see what other comments there are. The minimum wage was supposed to go up. Still waiting. Biden is a fucking joke. Just not a funny one. Trump actually did a great many things he promised to do. All these little fucking drones still flying around, chanting "Orange Man bad" don't know their asses from their elbows. Fucking Biden is corrupt in ways Trump never imagined. He thinks he's above the law. Maybe he is, 'cause ain't shit being done about his corrupt-ass deals with China, his corrupt-ass son, and his administration, which is about as open as Kim's bedroom. Biden on his best day was about as bright as a hammer, and his best days are long gone. Okay. Time for all you bright young socialists to take the shit. Well, prices are through the roof. The social climate is worse than ever before. We're more divided and tribal than we ever were. I'm 29 and may not ever own a home despite making a livable salary. Mental health and overall morale is in the shitter for I would argue the majority of folks in my age range. I could keep going. I'm not saying any of this has to directly do with Biden or Trump per se. But shit is pretty whack right now. I don't care who the president is. I care about my bottom line. And my bottom line has never been bleaker, at least in my adult life. I love it because I don't have to hear about the president 10 times a day. I'm enjoying the peace and quiet. Let's take a look at some other comments. Is 1 year really long enough to see any true outcomes of changes though? I feel like, if we think about it, a lot of changes that are put in place during a president's time in office take years to make some kind of difference, and then the current president gets blamed for consequences of some previous leader's actions, decisions. Of course some decisions produce immediately noticeable effects. Not discrediting that. Just saying that a lot also take time to make a difference. In a sentence, I'd say it's a prime example of what happens when you vote in a career politician on the basis of, he's not the other guy. Blissfully dull. This is asked on this sub like once a week. Let's see what other comments there are. I feel like he's doing a lot of things that, while unpopular, not flashy, are kinda necessary. Infrastructure bills, pulling out of Afghanistan, etc. They're not necessarily marketable, flashy projects that you could use in a re-election campaign. But it's something, and it's progress. Don't really know. The media doesn't really tell us about Biden 95% of the time. Quiet and equally as full of broken promises. Well, one of the first things he did was prevent a Trump EO from lowering insulin prices, so that's not a good start. Let's see what other comments there are. Biden is shit. I haven't thought about the president in like 3 months. God, it's so nice. Realistically, I think if Biden came after pretty much any other recent president besides Trump, he would widely regarded as an ineffective failure who inspires no hope or confidence in the American populace. He seems easily confused, weak, and fully entrenched in the system. Honestly, I'd much rather have Hillary, at least she had an edge. That said, still would rather have him than Trump. I love it. When things go to shit under Biden, people claim the president doesn't have any power. Keep doing your thing, Reddit. Let's see what other comments there are. At least he's not saying mean things on Twitter. Trump was mean on Twitter and Biden murdered 13 Americans. Not much to compare. Exactly how I expected. Full of lies and mental incapabilities. My costs of living didn't significantly go up when Trump became president. Here are some more comments I found. The average American has no idea how little power the presidency on its own has in the modern era. They don't realize how complicated, intertwined, and frankly fucked up the system actually is. Most Americans only know about the separate branches of legislative, executive, and judicial and a vague understanding of checks and balances. On average, we are still taught politics in the whole of how it was 50+ years ago. With all that in mind, most simply see the president as a scapegoat to blame when things aren't the way they think they should be, or as a figure to praise when something good happens. The average person also has no idea about long-term effects of policies and only think in the present. The office of president, on its own, is essentially powerless. It needs allies in Congress and other areas of government to actually be able to function. With all that being said, I think Biden is trying his best with what he knows how to do. I don't think he's the worst person for the job, but I also think he's not the 100% best either. Between the two we had to pick from though, he was most definitely the better option. We're out of comments for today. Join us tomorrow for some more comments. In the meantime, leave a comment with your stories and thoughts below. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed and want to see more. Until next time, listeners.